Hi guys, I just wanted to do, I'm going to be doing an overall DCTV recap of, I would say, most of the shows that I watched this week. For DCTV, I'm not going to be doing Krypton because I honestly haven't watched the episode yet, and I haven't really gotten the motivation to actually watch the episode because I feel like I might just do a season one review, if anything, but it just feels like the kind of show where it's just like, there's nothing that's like particularly like engaging. It's interesting, but not necessarily engaging enough to have me like wanting to come back every week or be eager to come back every week. Just sort of like, I'm just watching this as just out of being like as a DC fan, as a Superman fan, but I might just like um maybe just do like a one like season one recap for that show as I think if I think once the thing wraps up and I feel like the plot thickens and everything kind of comes full circle. I'm sorry I haven't had any videos this week. I just feel like one, I had other priorities in terms of like I said, I had to double down on job search as well as other errands, and I also just felt like it personally just needed a break because it was a hard trying to juggle work, life, and these videos. It's not easy for anybody or anybody who's a YouTuber. It's not something I have the luxury of being able to having like the being able to do full time. Maybe like I said, I'll put a link down to if you want to support the channel. You can do it through Brave, and also you can donate as much as like a dollar a month, just like Patreon. But it's a bit of like a stepping stone to see maybe I can do this full time. But as of right now, it's sort of like I don't know how. Just given how my schedule has been this past week and and I feel like I just haven't been able to break these down individually. But I'm just gonna, and I keep getting hit with copyright. Like they keep getting videos keep getting blocked for reactions for CW shows, even if meet the fair use policy. But so like I said, I'm just going to be giving my quick thoughts on the Black Flash, Black Lightning, Arrow, and put timestamps down below, either in the description box or the comment or as a pinned comment, and you can jump around and watch them in chronological order or in any order you would like to, depending on how strong you feel about the shows. So, The Flash, Season 4, Episode 17, Null and Annoyed, which actually speaks a lot about the quality of this episode. This was a Kevin Smith directed episode. And this was just basically like the most positive things I can say about this episode and the scenes that I really liked were Marliese DeVoe finding out that knocking over her cup and finding the Weeper's tears in all of her drinks and running these analysis and realizing that DeVoe's been basically the Thinker's been drugging her into compliance, and just when you think she's about to record a video message for herself, and save it under a file that even DeVoe can't, that even Clifford can't find. It turns out that she puts it under like lemon pie recipe, and it figures out like, oh, this file already exists and she's already recorded multiple messages before, and she's confronted by Clifford, still in Izzy's body, who inexplicably has a southern accent and shouldn't, even though because accents are not genetic, and saying that the combination of the Weeper's tears and Clifford's mind control abilities are what he's been using to keep her compliant, and saying it's like, oh, the thing that made me fall in love with you had the power to destroy us, your humanity, and it's like, I won't let that get in the way of our enlightenment. And the actress gave a really powerful performance, and about how like and just breaking down and just horrified that how much she's basically been like manipulated, the extent of how she's being how far she's actually been manipulated and abused by her own husband, and further providing a foil for Barry and Iris, where it's like Iris like keeps Barry grounded for the most part, and Flashpoint notwithstanding, and keeps from making too many too many dangerous decisions, or reckless decisions. This is the DeVoes are where it's like the wife supports his husband like wholeheartedly, and his ambitions without trying to keep him grounded, and which has led DeVoe into becoming this like megalomaniac who's like treating Marlies like crap, and it's obvious that at some point she's probably gonna ally herself with Team Flash. And then, of course, Harry going into the time vault where he hooks up his thinking cap to where the Reverse Flash's suit like once stood, and he's able to reactivate Gideon. And now people are starting jumped on this whole bandwagon, thinking it's like, oh, it's Thawne impersonating Wells again, but I'm not really. I feel like there's not enough. I feel like there's people kind of jumping to conclusions, in my opinion. Like there wasn't like any kind of like, because the show hasn't been that subtle about their clues as of late. Because I feel like we would have seen something like even something from hearing like the Reverse Flash's theme music in the background when Gideon was reactivated. We only heard like Gideon's theme music. To something as on the nose as seeing a Reverse Flash ring, or the Reverse Flash ring like show up again in or like the Reverse Flash suit show up again in the display case, because I feel like Eobard doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily need a thinking cap to outwit. Would need the thinking cap to outwit DeVoe, and I wouldn't know like what his angle would be for like helping Team Flash against DeVoe, because because like you saw in like the 407, the flashback with the DeVoes, when E.O. Wells, as it would some fans are calling him, said it's like he was a big fan of his work and knew he was a major enemy of the Flash, so why would he get in the way of somebody who's gonna put Barry through hell? So I think it's just a sign that maybe the thinking cap maybe just like a sign that he just wants to use Gideon to get future knowledge on the Thinker and how he's eventually defeated, and or maybe just like put more dark matter into the thinking cap. And so I'm just waiting till next week's episode to see what else is going to happen before I jump to those conclusions. But overall, this episode was probably one of the worst I've ever seen. Like, it represents everything that's wrong with this season. Characters being mishandled, way too much focus on Ralph. Especially and like the cringe comedy, and it just had like bad jokes. Like, the villain was incredibly flat. She had the ability to manipulate gravity, or as we had like a Jason Mewes and like Kevin Smith cameo in their own episode as sort of like kind of like a meta, I guess like almost like a meta reference to Jay and Silent Bob. But this was it's like people, I watched reviews saying that this was like Kevin Smith's, why would Kevin Smith like do stuff like putting some of the blame on Kevin Smith for this episode. But it's like most directors are like, they're kind of like freelance, and they just kind of come in and just do their job. They don't really have much creative say in like what in the episode, and it's not like and word of mouth is that Kevin Smith didn't even want to do any kind of Jay or Silent Bob references in the show, and just like kind of mess up like what the Flash's thing, but it's like the show's already kind of messed up. Like too much focus on Ralph, the bad jokes, a flat villain. It was just like this whole thing about Ralph being like, oh, Ralph still being overcoming his fears of being a hero, which is basically the same cycle he goes through every time, which is basically how it's like he has some kind of fear he has to overcome before he becomes a better hero. And I mean, they tried to make it look like, oh, Barry's just being uptight for Ralph never sticking to a plan, just goofing around, and Iris tries to tell him, it's like, oh, he needs to loosen up and just understand that he has his way of going. His heroics are different than Barry's, and there was this whole end sequence where Barry's almost like fell to his death because of Null, and then he said like, "Oh, let Ralph improvise," and he formed some kind of like giant whoopee cushion, and so like the whole basically the climax of the show ended on a fucking whoopee cushion fart noise, and you have Ralph goofing around like making jokes and putting whoopee cushions on Harry's chair, and it's just like, this is so like juvenile and lowbrow. This is not what the Flash is known for. Like, this is the kind of thing where it's just like, I don't understand why anybody likes Ralph at all. And it's like, if you pulled this kind of like, if you pull off this exact same shtick in a Michael Bay Transformers movie, nobody would have any tolerance for it. So it's like, why the double standard? It's like, if you're gonna condemn it all. Like, and stop people. I feel like people just make excuses for him, and he's not he's not evolving as a character. He barely is. I mean, granted, he's being like less. He's not showing any like misogyny or anything, just because of like people started to associate him with Andrew Kreisberg. But it's just like, you had that going on. You had stuff with the DeVoes. I guess like there are other stuff. I don't know. Maybe they had stuff with other stuff going on with Harry. You had like Breacher, Danny Trejo coming in and doing like, and apparently asking for Cisco's help because like, oh, he lost his ability to vibe blast, and they found out it's like, oh, it's because of his age, and they're trying to make a joke where it's like, oh, they give him some blue pills because it's like, oh, because to help him with like, with like performance issues, because it's basically almost like almost kind of like a parallel. You can tell it's like a parallel for like, oh, he's getting old, so he needs like blue pills for help with performance issues. So it's just, and then you have a thing where it's like, oh, he decides to retire and go to a dragon farm, which is, and interesting. It's like he can open breaches to different Earths, but he can't actually like form vibe blast, which I thought would be more interconnected, whatever. And then he says he wants to go to a dragon farm, for as part of his retirement, which is why I have that picture you're seeing right now. And he's offered Cisco a job to be his replacement, and so he figures like, oh, you get to spend more time with my daughter, and it's a great opportunity, and like Cisco decides to, I guess like think about it. Presumably, I don't think Cisco's gonna leave, because it's like then we'll be stuck with Ralph as like the best friend in comic relief, and that's horrifying. I mean, but I feel like that also means that that they're gonna break up, Cisco and Gypsy, and I feel like they're one of my favorite couples, and because of like they have the least amount of angst of all like this CW like Arrowverse couples. So, but it's like there was just so much like so many like subplots going on. Like you can't get attached to like one particular one, and just end up being boring and painfully unfunny. So I just have to give this like a 1 out of 5. Like, this is awful, and this show needs to like pick up, and it's just like, it's like without fail, like every time the show gets back from a mid-season hiatus, the episode sucks. Trial of the Flash sucked. Subject 9 sucked. This one sucked. It's like, I just really hope this like ends on a strong note, but I don't know. I just feel like this is honestly one of the shows like worst seasons. And I mean, next week's episode looks good, um, but the quality has been like this, so it's just been shitty all around, and I just kind of. I kind of just want the season to be over, so we can go on to season 5 and they actually, do damage control, because I just can't bear this. It's just ridiculous. So with Black Lightning, this is season 1, episode 12. The Book of Pain. This is the penultimate episode of the season, and this is where we feature the return of Khalil, who is actually who's not only he's able to walk again from a spinal implant, which Jefferson quickly deduces is from is because he was from experiments from the ASA, and I guess like taking like some pills or like some like regeneration pills that causes hair to grow out, and I was like sporting dreadlocks now, and it's like, but it's like it's gotten to the point where it's like he's blown off school, and he's basically telling Jefferson how it's like he abandoned him when he needed it, even though he was basically started alienating friends and family because of his injury, and he was corrupt. He was basically corrupted by Tobias Whale, who finally reappears after being missing in action because of from actually accidentally getting shot during in the middle of crossfire during a fight between Black Lightning and his men, in which Tori was killed, but he was shot and injured and dragged away, and basically the ASA like gave him like proper treatment and healed up, but under the condition that Proctor tasked Tobias Whale as well as Khalil with bringing Black Lightning in alive, because he's the only survivor of his experiments from the after effects of the green light, as far as he knows, and he wants to figure out like why that is so he can continue his experiments. And so now Khalil is like acting as his right hand man, acting as Tobias's right hand man, and even tries to meet up with Jennifer again, even after she's warned by Jefferson that what's happened to him, and that he's not himself. But at least like when she sees the spinal implant, she's still not completely running back into his arms, still asking questions as to like where he got the spinal implant, like who, and all that stuff, and even to the point where he's put off with the fact that like he tried to ditch the whole idea of getting back together with her, and then storms off, and realize and because he's pledged his loyalty to Tobias, he's reluctantly forced to attack his Garfield Hyde just in order to draw out Black Lightning, in which Tobias and gets into a huge fight with him, and you have like Thunder, who's getting into a classroom brawl with Cyanide, who the former has a ladder on the ropes until she realizes that how Thunder needs to breathe and focus in order to use her powers, and then she starts getting beat up, and it sort of like evens the playing field. And I don't know what it is. Like Khalil starts attacking the school with like he has like these like metal like wristbands, for lack of better terms, where he basically just starts tranquilizing everybody, and even like I think it also like neutralizes Black Lightning's powers, because which makes things even worse because Tobias Whale showed up wearing some like lightning resistant not armor, but some like material underneath his own suit. And so they basically like double team Black Lightning, and so Khalil accidentally kills Black Lightning with his super strength, like stops his heart, and it gets pissed at Khalil, about you know failing to meet up to Martin Proctor's task, so they end up having to flee. But luckily, Jennifer, who's like at the school when all this is going down, is like decides to finally step up and use her powers to help, ultimately being able to restart Jefferson's heart. And there is this like subplot where Jefferson and Lynn hook up, and they decide they want to get back together, but then it causes a rift when Jennifer drops how Lynn is working on some experiments to help Jennifer cope with her powers. She misinterprets it as thinking that it's going to help her, just like rid her of her powers. And then she tells that to Jefferson, and then Jefferson gets mad at Lynn and gets insulted and thinks like, oh, it's something that they're people that just need, people with abilities are just people who need to be fixed, and storms out. And then Lynn has to like tell Jennifer that she misunderstood what she was saying, and she's bummed about it. But I guess this whole attack on the school and helping her dad is probably going to help her to like change her tune about using her abilities, and also there's the fact that that basically when they're forced to like Gamby takes the Pierce family into hiding in this like cabin in the woods where just to hide from the ASA, which apparently they're going to fight off in the season finale. So it sets up like so it's a really great standalone episode, also a great build up for next week's episode, in which you have that going on, and then apparently Khalil and Tobias Wales conspiring to get rid of Proctor, so he no longer has any opposition, and Lala's like scared senseless when Tobias Wales is back, and especially when he confronts Tobias in his office and uses this phrase, "the devil deals the cards," which causes him goes from Lala from being hot-headed to all of a sudden just getting his compliance. And so it'll be interesting to see how everything comes full circle. And I don't know if everything will get wrapped up in the season finale. I feel like it might just end on a cliffhanger and just kind of like play into episodes in season. So we have Arrow season 6 episode 18, Fundamentals, in which we have I guess the overall premise is you have like Felicity is able to obtain evidence that that the DA and that the DA Armand and Captain Hill were on Diaz's payroll. The problem is that he can't present it to the city council, who was like wants to like throw him out of office without realizing that he got it from the Green Arrow, or like suggesting that he is the Green Arrow, or like confirming that he is the Green Arrow and that he's trying to he's trying to like get false evidence to save his own skin. And then all of a sudden he loses his temper with Felicity and just says like she's not doing her job, and to the point where he loses his temper and knocks over like William's science project, and Felicity tells him to get out. And then while he's down in the Arrow Cave, Felicity decides that he wants some space and wants a divorce, and confides in Quentin at some point. Why does everybody keep leaving me? It's like, I thought I really, Diggle says I've changed, but then it's like, I feel like I'm alienating everybody, so have I really changed? And Quentin just says that some people just aren't used to people changing, whether it's good or bad. And then all of a sudden, like, Oliver hears a knocking, like the elevator to the Arrow Cave opens, and all of a sudden he sees Adrian Chase, or at least a hallucination of Adrian Chase, and they have this huge fight in the bunker. And Oliver does blood work and realizes that Vertigo has somehow gotten into his system, and now he's not only hallucinating Prometheus, but he also, he hallucinates Prometheus for most of the episode. But then, and he tries to present the thumb. I guess like Quentin suggests, having Agent Watson present the evidence in order to help take down Diaz and save Oliver, but apparently she's not interested, which makes her, even when she's not on screen, look even like a more petty person, because you would think that she's more worried about you should be more worried about a crime lord like basically taking over the entire city through law enforcement and city officials, and more so than like some kind of personal vendetta against vigilantes. But apparently not, unless she's also on Diaz's payroll, so which is like the only thing that would like would make any sense. Or and but then, speaking of which, he also found out that Oliver realizes that one of the councilmen is on Diaz's payroll, because like when they shook hands, like he had vertigo on his hands, so that's how he was able to pass it into Oliver's system. And so, still hallucinating, then he like hallucinates himself as the Hood and says that he was never supposed to have partners or have any attachments. He was supposed to just focus on the mission, and so that drives Oliver to go against Felicity's original idea, which is to storm the Star City police station of corrupt cops, because Diaz shows up every night between like 10:13 and 10:46 p.m. with the surveillance shut off. And he also realized through a conversation between Quentin and Felicity that Oliver was hallucinating Felicity breaking up with him. So she ends up like running to the police station when Quentin gets knocked out by basically the Oliver as the Hood, and stops him from going through behind this door where cops and Diaz are ready to like shoot him dead. And basically it's like a very touching and heartfelt speech saying that she's always going to stand by him. She's the glue, that she's the one that's always going to be coming back to him. And it ends with this kind of cool like superhero pose where he fires like a grappling arrow, and they kind of get out of the police station as Diaz and the cops start shooting. But it still doesn't change the fact that Oliver decides that he wants to do things solo, and that's the best. And he feels like Dale had a point where his attention was too divided, and he has to focus on doing things on his own if he wants to take down Diaz once and for all. And I was just surprised just how good this episode was. I think it's actually one of the best episodes. Probably not only the best episode of this season, but maybe the best episode in like the whole series, especially with the return of Adrian Chase, even if it's as a hallucination. Oliver going solo at least a little bit, but we know the team's going to get back together before the season's over. But it's just it's almost like a little bit refreshing to see him like go solo, and it's not like, I don't know. It's like I don't miss like the B team because they become like really wretched, but it's just like, I don't know. It's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with this show, where it just feels like when you have like too many people, when you have like this whole like ensemble cast, it's like you have to like worry about all this like relying on those interpersonal drama and like plot lines that get a tad repetitive, and then, but then it's like, but then of course you need to have like have like more acting opportunities and make sure there's representation on the shows, etc. But then it's like you have Oliver going solo. You don't have that so much, but it also does kind of feel like a throwback of the show, kind of like going back to basics at least temporarily. And maybe the season could end strong, even though this whole season's been kind of a mixed bag. And Also, this is also just courtesy to Lord Mesa on Instagram, Twitter. He does this like really cool artwork for the Arrowverse. This is why I decided to use some of his poster, use it for my video. Is just just want to give him a shout out, and also because I also keep getting flack for copyright claims for using posters for the CW. So I figured I think I might just rely on using fan art from now on. But anyway, guys, what did you think of the episodes this week? What do you think had the strongest episode this week? Your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.